Hi everyone, Emma here. I'm so excited to show you how to make this lovely pair of earrings. We got these lovely Czech glass elephants from our Curiosities box, Passage to India from John Bead. So huge thank you to John Bead and to the designers for these lovely components that we got. They are, the elephant bead is one of my favorite beads of all times in the Czech glass beads. They are just so beautiful. So we are going to make this earring. I'm going to show you how to do it. We'll see if we can get it all in the video. I may end up pausing it a bit, just some of the bead embroidery that once you get the idea how to do it, I can complete the circle, but we'll see how it goes. We may do the whole thing in the video. So get your cup of tea or your cup of coffee and set a spell. So I will put the links in the description for the John Bead Curiosity box. So wonderful news. I think it's this box sold out right away. So they are adding 25 boxes and more availability for subscriptions. So the idea with the subscription is that you're insured to get a box every month. You don't have to worry about rushing and ordering your box. But there is boxes available beyond that. But again, this one sold out within days of it being released. So let's take a look at what we have. Like I said, the link will be in the description on the John Bead friend and family site, so you can order that or subscribe. And let's get started. We have a lot to do, so lots of fun things to do. So let me just talk about this earring to begin with. So the idea is this part here will be the bead embroidery, and then we'll add our ear wire. You can add, and let me say, whatever you have, you should use. Don't feel you have to go out and get the exact same things as I have. I've been collecting components like ear wires for years, so I have a bunch of really incredible stuff, but just use what you have. It will still look amazing. I know, because I've seen the pictures. People have sent me pictures of what they're creating, and sometimes it's just the inspiration to get you started to do something of your own and your own design. So that's really fun that we can do that. So to start with, I have this large rectangle crystal, and what I did was I have this stiffy fabric that we got in one of our other Curiosity boxes, and I went ahead and cut a hole in the back because these crystals here they're quite thick, and if you were to try and glue it on here, you still can. You'd have to put a lot of glue to kind of level it up from the point to this part here. So the idea is to make a hole in your stiffy fabric and then glue just the edge of your crystals. Be careful when you're gluing it, and I did this ahead of time so that it'd be dry for us to work on. I would recommend, I'm using E6000, but use whatever glue you prefer. I do find with the E6000, once it's glued, it's not going anywhere. You're going to have to tear it apart to get it off. So just be aware you don't want to mess up your crystal if you have to pull this off. So, and try not to get the glue beyond the edge of this, because your needle is going to be passing through. Now, the E6000 has a rubbery texture to it when it dries, so you actually can easily get your size 12 needles through the E6000. So if you do go beyond the edge, don't worry, your needle will go through it, but just you will get some resistance as you're going through. So that's the first step. I left, I kind of knew how much space I needed to cut out my piece. I would recommend you cut a bigger piece until you have an idea what you want, what beads and crystals you're going to put on it. So this could have been, even that, maybe a half a centimeter, maybe 5 millimeters larger all the way around. I think I've been doing this for so long I can kind of eyeball it, but you know what? Made mistakes and cut it too small. So be aware of that. So once it's glued and I have my square, I also pre-cut my faux leather, and that's what we're going to put in the back. But again, I wouldn't cut this ahead of time unless you know exactly the size you're going to be completing. One, so you don't waste your faux leather and have to cut a whole bunch off of it. But I knew exactly what I was going to need to finish this off, so you can see. So once you have that step, if you need me to walk you through this step by step, let me know and I'll do just a quick tip video for that. So let's get started, because this is like so much fun. When it starts like getting sparkly like this, you're like, this is amazing. So you're going to need an 11/0 seed bead. I did a border around the crystal and around the edge with the 11/0 metallic gold seed bead. And then I have these 3mm crystals. You can get these on any of the sites that sell jewelry making stuff, or from different bead shops. These are 3mm crystals, and here's the thing, you don't have to use the same size. You can use smaller or bigger. One of the benefits of using a bigger crystal is you see how quickly I just needed one row of crystals to complete this. And this is a fairly big earring. So it covers it and, gives you the effect you want. It's very sparkly. I like it. This one turned out so amazing. So let's start by, I should say the other items you need, of course, is your elephants. You're going to need some daggers if you're going to do it like this. If you have drops, you can put drops there. I did put in a 4mm Swarovski green pearl, iridescent green pearl. So I have one of those. I used demi rounds, 2 of those, to attach the ear wire to the elephant. So there's one of the demi rounds there and one here. And then down here, I didn't want to have a lot of space in between the daggers, so I put 11/0 demi rounds. These ones are 8/0 at the top. And then there's just an 11/0 seed bead on each side with a crystal. So that's what you need for that. You're going to need some 1G thread or whatever thread you use for bead embroidery. And I'm using a size 12 needle. I did find the John Bead stiff fabric is, I think you should use a size 12 needle to go through. It is so good and so compact that even the size 12, it goes in fine, but you will feel some resistance. So that's good, because you don't want your threads moving. If you place your bead here and your thread's like moving all over, that bead's going to pop up and it's going to look weird. Like if you see maybe some of these, like this line is totally straight, but then this one you can see it's popped up a bit. So the more compact the weave is in this stiffy fabric, the better it is for your beading. But you may, if you're just doing a basic project, you may not notice it. I've been doing it for a while and I really notice it. And I'm just double checking my color of my bead. I have like a bunch of projects on my desk. Like, I don't know, this doesn't look the same color. Once you put another color next to it, like a crystal, like these crystals, orange crystals, it's And I'm noticing you can see a bit of residue of the glue. All you have to do, this is why I love the E6000. Take my nail or maybe a wooden stick. I wouldn't use like a metal awl or anything, and just move that glue off of the crystal. Yeah, there's another little bit there. I mean, you won't notice that at a distance. So again, this is like getting down to the nitty gritty here. You can always push it towards your... But yeah, the E6000 is great because it has like a elasticy feel to it. So you can always just peel it off if it lands on your crystal. There, so that's that. Let me just... I'll be polishing this throughout. So let's grab some. I did find I used a wingspan of this, and let me make sure there's enough light here. I used a wingspan, and that was enough for the whole thing, including attaching the ear wire. And so you're going to need scissors, which I don't have. Oh, Emma. I get my like massive scissors. I just spotted where my scissors are. They're in a project bin. Okay. So let's thread this. And we also got gold eye needles in our Curiosity box. So I was using that. My needle is nicely bent now. But that's the way it goes when you're doing bead embroidery. I was doing another project with it that was requiring like hours of beading, so I totally destroyed the needle. That was me, not the needle. Okay, so I'm just putting a little knot in there. Now, there's a couple of ways to start your beadwork. You can always leave your knot at the back and start your work, and then just clip this so that's not a whole bunch of thread sticking out. For this project, you're not going to really notice it, but for proper bead embroidery work, you should start your knot at the top. So that's a little bit close to where we're going to start. You can see, look, I think that's the E6000. Let me see. There we go. Bring that down a little bit close to where you want to start your work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create 3 passes, 2 to 3 passes closer to your work so that your thread is actually hidden. And then we're going to cut that knot off, so then you're never going to have knots in your work. So if you were doing a huge project, oh, this is interesting. I know I had glue on here. There we go. If you have a large project that you're doing, so you're starting and stopping with your thread, you don't want to have a bunch of knots at the back. So there's 1 pass. We'll do a second pass, and that should be fine. So let's see where I can... So now I'm trying to come up close to where I want to start my beadwork. Yeah, that's fine there. That. And pass through 1 more time. If you have problems pulling your needle through, just use your pliers to pull it. There. So now what you're going to do is you're going to pull this up a bit and get your scissors under that knot. Like that. Now you have no knots and your thread is not going anywhere because it's already passed through a couple of times. So there we go. Let's get boogieing. So I am gonna, now you might want to decide when you're doing your sides for your beadwork is to come out, like take the parallel sides and add the bead outward, the first one, so that when you turn the corner and put beads in here, these beads are going to sit inside of that bead. So you're going to go one past on the longer side. Again, some of this information is very detailed stuff. If you find it intimidating, let me know and we'll do some really basic forms. Now I'm trying to find where I want to come through. There we go. So now I'm going to start stitching up this way. And I'm still going to tilt this a bit because I find doing embroidery work on camera difficult because you tend to hold it close to yourself. So let's put 4 beads on. These are the 11-ohs metallic gold. The crows are going to town out there. So you're going to put your beads on and you're going to go bring them down to your work. This way you know where to pass through. Hold your thread there. Something like that. And I think we can enlarge this some more. There. So now I'm just going to go past the last bead. So about here. If you don't go a little past the bead, your last bead is going to tilt down and it's going to look funny. Then pull everything through like that. Now you're going to come up through and pass through the last 2 beads. So you need to find the spot in between the 2 sets of beads. Oh, there we go. Like that. Bring that through. Now you're going to pass through the last 2 beads. And I did find this happens a lot. You see, we've accidentally passed through the stiffy. Just pull that a bit. Get those guys in there. Pick up 4 more 11-oh beads. And I don't know why these ones have double, they're stuck together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring them down. This way you know where you need to pass through, like that. And I just hold my thread at the top and put my needle in a little further. So you see that went in really easy. So the others had glue on it, like that. Now we're going to go backwards 2, coming from the back, like that. And you're not pulling these too tight. You don't want them to get flipping over or popping up. Go through the next 2 beads or the last 2 beads that we added, like that, and kind of coax them into the position you want them in. Pick up 4. 4 should probably take us just past the top of that crystal. But we'll take a look what we have. This actually, yeah, perfect. Just past. So we are going to Just go slightly past that last bead. Bring your thread through that. And we're going to come up through the just before the last two, like that. And go through the last two beads. And pull it snug. Like that. I'm going to bring my thread pretty much through the same spot that I passed the first time. And then I'm going to come up here and then do this row here. So if you're interested in stuff like this, I love doing this stuff. I find that, like I said, if you have a larger bead, you could finish this really quick. So sometimes it's very satisfying to have projects done very quickly. But so let me know if you're interested. We'll do more. So now I'm going to bring my needle up somewhere in here so I can start adding the beads. And you can always use your last seed bead as your kind of gauge as to where you need it. There. Pick up 4 11/0 seed beads, bring them down to your work. Here's the other thing I like about doing bead embroidery is it's very forgiving. So you can move things around. If you're, if you find it's not sitting in the right spot, you can see with my nail, I can move that to close it up, but that'll get closed up when we put that set of crystals as well. So let's bring that through here. Like that. And that. We're going to come up through just before the last two beads here, like that. And pull it in, pass through the last two beads, like that. There. This would probably take 3 beads. Let's try 3. Let me see here. Yeah, I think that's 3 on there. Bring those down. Perfect. Look at that. Hold that thread there and come through here. The other thing I like with bead embroidery is you can use up leftover stuff, because you can do small projects like this, or you could do a larger project that has a bunch of different colors and size beads. So now I'm going to bring my thread up somewhere in here, because remember we went past these guys on this section. So let's just slightly past. There, like that. Pull your thread through. Now we're going to pick up 4 11/0s and bring them down. That. Hold your thread straight. Push those down a bit. that. And find the spot just slightly ahead of the last bead you have on there. Pull that through. You can wax your thread, and normally I do, but I have found with this stiffy fabric, if I wax my thread, it starts to get a little bit sticky for me. And I'm finding some of the threads, like I find the 1G super smooth, so it's really, it passes through pretty easily. But the idea about waxing your thread is to keep the fibers stuck together on your thread. And you'll notice by the end of this, the threads will start to fray a bit. So at that point, I would add some wax just to hold it together. So pass through the next two. Okay, so I'll continue this section here. I'll just pause the camera, and when I get to the end, I will start the camera again and show you how to finish off this first row. Hang in there, bye. Hi, everyone. Let's just make sure this is looking okay on the camera. So I completed the first line of 11 OC beads. So my thread is coming out of the corner where I started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up, and we are going to pass through all the beads again, and I'll show you why. So let me see if I can find a spot that's not going to change how the beads are sitting. Okay. So if you take a look, you've got this bead sticking up there and that one sticking out, and then there's a space here. So usually you see this with round shapes that you're covering, like a cabochon. So it's quite easy to just pass through a couple of times to give it the shape. But you could do the same with the square, and you're basically going to pass through all the beads again and then pull it in, and that will draw in all those beads that are sticking out, the corner beads as well, and it'll look really beautiful. So it's definitely worth doing that extra step. So let's just pass through here. Make sure you grab all the beads. If you're doing this and it's you don't want your corner beads to look like it's rounded, you see how it starts to give it a rounded effect? If you don't want to do that, then just go ahead and do each side in one line. So take this thread, pass it through your stiffy, and then that will tuck all these guys in, but it won't have any effect on your corners. But I kind of like that rounded effect, especially for this design. You can see how it made it really nicely rounded. So we're going to go through all of these. And again, because this is a small project, it's pretty easy to go through everything. You start to pull it and you can see it's starting to really tuck them in nicely. Pass through all of these. Sometimes I've gone through a second time as well, but these seem to be pretty good. So I will maybe pass through the first line again so that we get that corner tucked in nicely. Let's pull that, and you can pull and move your beads around a bit. That first one here is kind of tilted over, and these guys are really, they're really all over the place. Don't they know they need to behave? Then let's pull that. And this will also straighten out a bit when we put the next row again. So now I'm going to pass my thread through just to anchor all that work that we did. That and there. So now we're going to do our row of crystals. Let's move this over. Oh, look at that. You know what I think is I had some smaller crystals. I don't know if you can see that. Some smaller crystals, and it got put in this bin. Yeah, I've mixed the two by accident. I'm definitely not sorting. I've done some bead sorting, and let me tell you, it's not fun. Yeah, you know what? It was a different project. I think it was this one here that I was working on, and I put them in the wrong. So we just need I'm almost tempted to move those over. I think I got most of them gone now to get the bigger ones out in front, so we don't have to think about it. So let's grab, the idea is the same. You won't want to create this circle around here, so decide where you're going to start. I'm going to start maybe over here. And do the same thing, pick up 4. These are 3mm crystals. Those are like 1.5, the difference, eh? So pick up 4 of these 3mm crystals. And they're faceted, so I do find they're hard to pick up with my needle. I just kind of roll my needle over them, and eventually the hole will connect with the needle. So take those down. That, and go to the next section, just slightly in front of that bead, the last one there. That. Now you're going to come up through the middle of these and pass through the 2 last beads. That. And that will secure them like that. Now for the corners, you can pick up 4 beads, or you can maybe do 1. That's up to you. Let's try 4. See if I can pick up any of these beads here. 3. 4. And that one came off. Misbehaving. Wow. Okay. 4 beads. Let's draw them down, see how it looks. There. You know, I don't think I cut this too short. I think what happened was when I glued see how it's kind of puckered? So I lost a bit of space on this side. So be careful. Give yourself lots of space. That was an error of mine while I was trying to prep everything for the video. So just go through in front of that last bead. Draw that down. Go up through just in between the 4 beads like that. Pass through the last 2. I will have no problem getting my last row in of the seed beads, but I don't recommend it. And there you go. Like, I've been doing this for a while and I still make mistakes. So there's 4 of those. So you can see this one's going past the corner. So I'm going to just hold it a little bit on an angle so that it's turning the corner. And again, I'm going to put my needle just in front of that bead where I want it to sit. And it's not a big deal anyway, because we're going to do that trick of going around everything and it will position things where you want them. So let's come up between the two sets of two. And we're going to pass through the last two like that. And a trick to this too is not pulling your thread super tight when you're lining them up, and that way you can reposition them as you need to. So pick up 4 3mm crystals. There's 3 and 4. Pull those down. You could see how fast this and how amazing. It's very sparkly. I was playing with my 12mm Swarovski pearls that I recently got. There's an unboxing showing them. They're spectacular. And I was playing with them to see what they would look like as a necklace. And they were they were strung on 2 lines. So it looked perfect as a 2-strand pearl necklace. And I'm showing my wife, we went to a retirement party last night. I was showing her, I said, I think I'm going to wear these to the party. She's like, I hope you like to walk. I was like, no, you wouldn't make me walk. I'm like, come on, everybody knows how sparkly I am. It was more of a picnic than it was a party, so it's a good thing. People would have been wondering, what the heck? So again, go around the corner like that. And just slightly ahead of that last bead. If you go in too close, it's going to tilt the bead over. You wouldn't notice it with a round faceted bead like this, but maybe a seed bead you would. So then come back to the 2 in between the 2 sets of 2. Like that. And again, I'm not pulling too tight on this section because I don't want them to just be like stuck, into the large crystal like that. And 4 should do it here. So let's go. Here's the thing too, when you're ending, like doing a round like this for the crystals, if it needs extra, check first, because when we go through everything and pull it tight, that space may disappear. So there's always that. I find it looks a little nicer if you can have the space disappear rather than have a bead that's sticking out too much. So actually, see what I mean? So there, once I pull that in tight, you're not going to see a space there. Let's see what it looks like. It looks weird with it there, because we do want that rounded effect on the corners for this one. If you wanted a complete square, then I would definitely add it. And you can kind of move the others around as well. So let me just go ahead here. Like that. So you can see the space still there, but we're going to take care of that. So I'm just going to go backwards a bit through here, and we're going to pass through everything now. So go through these guys. Pass through these. Oh, there. And it's there. So I just moved these around a bit. And that took care of that space. Keep going around till you pass through it. All the beads that we just added. That. Go through that. There. See that? So that one was kind of spaced out. All I had to do is pull and it brings them in nicely. Go through the rest of them. And we'll pass through all of these. That. And now you can see there's a bit of space there, and we want to make sure it turns this corner so you can. I'm just going to hold this down while I pull it. And look at that. Lovely. And we'll finish off through here. So we close off that corner. And look at that. Purdy. There. So now we're going to tack this down. And we'll do our final row of seed beads. Like that. Let me get some of these seed beads. We'll get started with the seed beads, and then I'll pause the camera to complete the seed beads. So I want to come through close to where I'm at, but we want to remember this next row is going to go here. So maybe about... I can hear the crows outside the window. They have like different sounds. I had to look up what the sound, that kind of like clicking sound they make. Okay, so pick up 4. 11 seed beads. And use your thread to hold them in place. And then go slightly in front of that last bead that you added. Like that. Go through the middle of those beads. As best as you can. You're not going to get exactly every time, but pass through the last 2. Like that. Pick up 4. I'm going to show you this section here just because you can see I cut it too far to the one side. Like that. Let's hold it there. Just slightly in front of that last bead. This is the great thing about this John Bead felt, is because it's tightly woven and thick, my thread's not going to pass through that. If I was using like the cheapy felt, what happens is the felt's not like compacted enough so that your thread could just pull right out across that little space. So that's the other part I like, because then when I'm doing my stitching at the end, I know that my thread's not going to pull away. So let's go back to pass through the last two, and you can kind of pull those in a bit. Pick up 4. That. And draw those down. To see where they're going to go. Like that. Pass through between the set of 4. And I'm going to go further into my work. I really don't have a lot of felt left on that side. It's not going to matter because I'm not pulling it super tight. It's not going to draw them in, but it's going to hold them in place. So let's just go through here. The last 2. You know, those things happen, right? You get ahead of yourself. Slightly. I don't have to trim it now. No, just kidding. Okay, so let me do one corner so you can get an idea what that looks like, and then I will do the rest and come back. I would promise no more mistakes, but yeah, that's not going to happen. So just use your thread, hold your thread to position where you think you want them to sit, and then just put your needle slightly in front of that last bead. You could let go of the thread then. This part here, you're not going to pull super tight, but you're going to pull enough that it's like in position, right? Then we're going to go back 2 beads. There, like that. Pass through those 2 beads. Ready to add the rest. So I will finish this round and then we will finish up this beautiful earring. Be right back. Okay, so I have it all done. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to trim the excess felt off. Again, this is a preference thing. You can take your piece of faux leather and glue it on and then cut it. I've done that sometimes too. The reason I'm going to cut this now is because I don't want to cut any threads. And to do that, I'm going to make sure I take a look where it's very simple. Just look where the threads are. But so let's get started. We will go from the front because you want just a tiny bit of felt. So maybe a little bit of a border if you have that. For your thread to go through, because we're going to weave some seed beads all the way around. And again, that's what I'm looking for. The other thing is you can leave your thread on, just pay attention to where it is and what you're doing with it. And actually, now that I look at it, maybe we should finish it. There's not enough on here to do the rest, because we're going to do a whole, I'm going to get rid of this thread. So I'm just going to bring it to the back. That. So I did go around twice to get everything tucked in nicely. And so I'm just going to kind of weave back and forth through like that. And that should do it. Then cut this thread off and we'll start a new thread for the rest. That. And we are going to trim this. So I'm going to take a look at where my thread is. I have done this where I cut the threads. So, I mean, you can cut it this way, but then you don't know where your beads are. So that's why I'm doing it from the front. And this is about the extent of a border that you want. Like that. There. If you happen to cut a thread, just stop what you're doing with your scissors, get your needle, and go through those beads and attach them. I'll have to watch for that thread there. It comes out still under there, so that's good. Here's the other tip when you're cutting. Cut wider. So cut a basic amount around your beadwork, and then if it's not enough cut off, then just do a second pass so you can see where that thread was. So I wasn't anywhere close to that. And that's maybe we'll take a little more off of this. Yeah, I can see that thread there, so be careful. I'm talking to myself. Be careful, Emma. There. That should do it. So now get your faux leather so we can move these beads out of the way. I can't believe I mixed those two sizes. Oh my gosh. I don't have these containers labeled because they're just cheapy crystals. So the names that they give them on the website that I order them from are pretty rando anyway. So even the sizes sometimes that they give are rando. Okay, so grab your faux leather and place it on there. Let's get our... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue on this part here, and the reason being is I want to make sure that I don't put any glue around the edge, maybe a millimeter or two, so that I can still get my needle through. Very important. So I'm just going to get a stick. I use these they're like craft sticks or something. You get them at the dollar store. You don't have to put any glue on the actual crystal. And you know what? You don't have to glue them either. Some people don't glue their beadwork. I just like the idea that now the threads are secured with glue as well. So I'm going to move this around with my craft stick, being careful not to get it everywhere near the edge. There. And that in there. That. And even at this point too, you can still trim this if you need to. I'm a little OCD, can you tell? I don't like jagged edges. And I'm actually gluing it. You see how it's nice, it's rounded? I'm gluing it like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut around. And I try and make this part here very like nice lines because you might see the back. So like little jagged lines like that, just make it nice and rounded. But you don't have to stress that much on this because these we're gonna do bead embroidery all the way around. I guess it's like a brick stitch, and it's gonna pull in the edges of the felt and the faux leather. So you know, if your lines are not totally straight, that doesn't matter. So just like that. So that's that. You need some of these. So I do the border of this before I attach my components. So we'll do all of this after. Right now we'll just do this edge all the way around. Okay. So we're gonna need some more. There's a crystal in here. We need some more of these 11O metallic gold. They are lovely. You can use, so here's a tip that's a nice tip if you're new to this. Instead of using the 11Os, you can use 8Os and it will go faster. I like to use on earrings, I like to use 11Os because it's daintier, but you can definitely use the other. So I'm going to grab, you're probably going to need maybe half a wingspan for this. I think probably what I did for this first earring was a wingspan for all the beadwork and a wingspan for the outer stitching. And for some reason I thought I'd only used one wingspan. So let's thread this. Okay. Now you can pick a spot where you want to start. And let me just, I don't know that you can see that, but I'm going to just trim that a little bit. Okay. So for this, I put a knot at the bottom of my thread. With tiny tail. You don't want it too big because we're going to hide it inside the two pieces. So we're just going to take our needle down, say, at one end. And then pass through. I feel like I maybe got some glue. Don't want to get glue on your needle. So just pass through and come out the felt in like further up. The reason being now our knot will hide inside there. So let's see how we did. Like that. That's actually quite a tail. We don't need that much of a tail. I wonder if there's an air show going on. I live by an Air Force base, and the runway is only used for helicopters, and they've been flying really low. So just pull that through like that. Take your needle and tuck the rest of it in between the felt and the... Oh, it's being stubborn here. Where's my stick? Maybe I'll use my pliers, tweezers. There. Tuck that in there. Okay, so now we're ready to start. We're coming out of the felt. We're going to pick up 2 11/0s. I'm going to come to the back. And if you take your thread straight across your work, you're going to see where your hole is, but you want to go to the next bead because we're going to come up the next bead. So if you take your 2 beads, place the first one there that the bead would pass through the middle. So then just slightly ahead, you're going to go through your leather and back through your felt. Like that. And you're going to pull your thread through. I use my finger to hold the beads up so I can see where they're going to be placed because I want the beads to sit on this ledge. So, like that. Now for this first one, because we're not securing the first bead to the ledge, you want to leave this a little bit loose because when we come back up at the end, we are going to pass through this thread and it will position it in that on that ledge. So now we have the 2, so you can see there it's just a bit loose. I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to come up through the bottom of the second bead. Like this. Make sure it comes forward. This first one's just a little bit, I'm crossing over my thread there. Let me see what that's. Oh no, it was fine. It's just jumped that. What the heck? I think it did jump. Let me get my thread through there. There we go. So my thread jumped. So there we have that first one. And you can start to pull it. You can see how it's going to sit nicely on that ledge. Like that. The tighter you pull that, and of course, again, be careful not to pull it too tight so that we have some place to put that first bead. But the tighter you pull it, the further down it will go and it will compress that little ledge of felt so that it's not visible. So now let's go add an 11/0. We're going to come through the back. I like to always go through the back because then I can try and get my threads entries pretty close to the edge and looking nice. If you see some of my old beadwork, my threads are like all over the place on the back. But that just comes with practice. So again, I'm holding my finger so that bead does not slide to the bottom of the thread. Like that. And now I'm going to pass through the bottom of that 11/0 that I just added. And watch what happens. You pull it and there you go. It comes down. That you can kind of nudge it a bit if you want. And there you go. That's what it looks like on the back. So we'll keep going. We'll do that for a little bit and then I'll go ahead and finish it and come back. So come to the back. So you're going basically where you think that bead is gonna, the middle hole is gonna sit. So just slightly in front of the other and down a bit. Come through your faux leather and your felt, pull your thread down, come up through the bottom of that bead that you just added, and then pull it into place like that. Keep going, pick up an 11-0, go to the back, and go slightly in front of the other bead. Pull. And come up through the bottom of that bead we just added. And pull it tight. There you go. Look at that. I find this the most satisfying because it outlines everything, brings it all together, and it looks lovely. And just keep going like that. You can hold it whichever way you want. You got to find the way that works for you. So you can do like that and then pass through the bottom of that bead. Pull your thread through and pull it tight. Yeah, I think I like to have mine head a bit there. Pick up an 11-0, go through, pass through both layers. That. And come up through that last bead. And pull it tight. There's the crows. I don't know if you can hear that. These microphones are pretty good at detecting, like having the audio when it's close up, and I'm very close to the mic. And but they're at the window, like that. Come up through the bottom. That. And again, this portion goes really quick. It's so nice. So there you go. I'll continue and I'll be back and we'll add everything. Here's the other thing with this design. You don't need a huge crystal like this. You could put like a bead there or a charm if you had one, or don't put anything at all. Just do like a round of beads and then add your elephant and your whatever embellishments you want. You can go even quicker. Okay, I'll be right back. Hi everyone. So I'm almost done, but I wanted to show you the area that I cut too much of the fabric. You see how it's really far in? I'll show you a trick on how to deal with that. See, I know all the tricks because I make all the mistakes so that you don't have to. So I'm on my last bead. Like this is where I ended my thread. Pick up an 11-0. So you're going to go through the back like we have been and find a spot. Now angle your needle so that it picks up somewhere in here. So if I just came out here, I wouldn't pick up any of the felt. I want to get my needle to come out somewhere in here. So let's see what we need. I don't need that much space. Something like that. So angle my needle out so it passed the row of seed beads and then the crystals. Come out all the way like that. Hold your finger there to position that next bead. Somewhere like that. There. Okay, now take your needle, go under the 2 rows that you just came out of. So like the threads coming out past the crystals, go under the row of crystals. Pretty easy to do like that, and under the row of seed beads. Come out. So now what you've done is you've hooked that felt further in, and now we're going to pass through the bottom of the bead we just added, like that, and pull it tight. Look at that. There's my fancy little trick. So I'm going to continue showing you, and this is the first bead that we put on. You see it's not quite sitting on the edge, so we're going to pick that one up and put it where it needs to be. So do the next one here. I'll do the same. You can see where the felt is, but I want to get a little more felt than that. So get my needle in here and pass it through up this way. Pull that in, and it just went past the silver beads, so we'll just come out under the silver beads like that. Super simple. And we want to pass through the bottom of this bead that we just added like that, and then pull everything tight. Next one, about there, and we're going to do the same past the 11-0 row, and we'll just get our needle underneath that. If you happen to pass through the felt, it's not a big deal. You still, hooked into the majority of it. So, and we'll just come up through the bottom of that one and snug it in. Next one, probably don't have to do it on this next one, but I will anyway, just so you see what I'm doing. That. Get your needle out from under there. You can cross over, so I have done that too, and I've done that to secure this line of beads, but just know that when you do that, you may end up distorting them, like it'll pull it out a bit, so you can decide how you want to approach it. There may be a point where you think, oh, that line isn't straight the way I want it, and it's kind of floppy or whatever. You could do straight across that and it will pin them down. So this is that one there. We're going to need probably just one bead now. So pick up that bead, go through the back, through the felt, come out like that. We're going to come up through the bottom of that bead like that. Tuck that in. So now what we would be doing is picking up a bead, but we're going to pick up this bead, but of course it's already attached. So we're going to come down through the top of it like that. Okay, so it's pulling them together. But we also need to create a bridge through the back because there's no line. You can see all the lines for the other beads. This one doesn't have it. And you can see how it's exposed the leather. So we're going to do as if we're passing through like that. Let's move my thread over, come out this way. And again, we always pass through the bottom side of the bead we just added. So we're pretending we added that bead, but we really didn't. It was already there. So I'm just going to pass through the top of it like that, or the bottom of it, pull it through and pull it tight. And that's it. And we are done this section. This turned out lovely. It's weird. This one looks a little more rounded, and it could be the way I position these crystals compared to this one. Yeah, it looks totally different. Oh my gosh, that's weird. See, I think I probably cut a lot more fabric felt out on this one. And I can see it's a bit tight. So here's the other thing too, is you should try to get like a loose tension when you're adding these beads, because if you pull them too tight, this is what happens. Look at this one's out of place. They start to buckle. Now, nobody's going to see that on your ear. If they're that close, they're too close. So let's see what it looks like on. Oh, look at the difference. That's huge. That's very strange. I'm going to look. I know why. Look at, I added an extra row. Oh, that's why. Okay, well, we're going to have 2 sets of earrings. How did I make that mistake? So when we were done the crystals, we were done. The finishing row is the last row of seed beads. I could not figure out why it looked so round. So here you go. So we'll still do the same. I have enough elephants, so there'll be 2 sets of these earrings. They turned out pretty good. So there you go when you don't pay attention. Oh, so let's keep this one here for our example. I think we can just bring this down a bit. And we will attach. So now we have to decide on this one because it's so much bigger. And one side looks a little more rounded than the other, I think. I wonder if I put it this way. You know what? I'm going to put it this way because this line looks weird here. So let's do it this way. I'm just pausing because I want to do the daggers first and then come up through. So we're going to have to, and of course this is on this side. I still can't believe I did that. Oh, okay. So let's do the bottom right here since the thread's there now anyway. So we're going to need our pearls. We need 2 crystals. I'm going to use the 3mm. Look at that. These teeny tiny ones aren't coming out. I need 2 3mm crystals, not these teeny tiny ones. Okay. Oh my God. Tell me what, if you've ever made a mistake like that. It turned out. Okay, so I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I need my small demi rounds, the 11-0 demi rounds. So pick up a crystal, a demi round. Then we are going to pick up a dagger. And these are 2-hole daggers. I didn't realize. That's amazing. There's so much you can do with the 2 holes. So you're going to go through the top hole. Then we're going to pick up a 4mm pearl. Then the next dagger from the top hole. So this is what you have so far. We're going to pick up a demi round. I'm just thinking about the order of these things here. Pick up your crystal and a demi round. There's not enough demi rounds. Let me see what I did here. No, that's right. So I didn't need the last one. I'm using a seed bead, and I'll tell you why. So I'm using a full size 11-0. The demi rounds are about half the size, and the reason being is because when you attach it on this section here, there's a bigger gap. So that's why I have it like that. But you can use whatever you want. It's not a big deal. So I'm coming out of this end bead there. We're going to check and make sure that it's going to be centered. Otherwise, we might have to switch that. So just bring your beads down like this to see where that's going to land. And get it right in there. Just want to make sure that should work like that. So let's go up through this bead here. And I'm going to go up through the felt. Just be careful not to poke your leather. Like that. Pull that in. Oh my God, I still can't believe I did that. Oh, I do preparation for these videos. Really, trust me. Oh my gosh. You know, when you're so close to something, you don't see it. So your thread, I purposely put my thread through this area of the felt. So you can either come back through the felt, it'll be secure, and come through that bead and go past this way, or you can pass through your felt again, coming out the other side and go like in a circle that way. It doesn't matter. As long as you're passing through the felt, it'll be nicely secured. So I think I'll just do something like this. Look at that. That was perfect. I couldn't have done that if I tried. Totally rando. And like that. And you can pull it a bit there, snug. Like that. So pass through that again. All these beads. Like that. And go through the demi round, the crystal and the seed bead, and pull it snug. I'm going to go through that end bead, and I'm going to pass through the felt. Oh, what? I got hooked here. It's my tail thread. Like that. Now we're going to come back out. So pass under those seed beads. Like that. And we are going to, let me see if I can conceal that thread here. I'm going to come out that same seed bead that's on the end. Let me just do this way. It's a bit of fiddly stuff at this point, but so worth it. So come out that end bead. Okay, now we're going to pass through the 11-0, the crystal, the demi round. We're going to continue through the pearl. Get in there. That. I'm going to look at what I did for the other one to step down. Ow. Okay, I came through the same hole. So we have to go back through that pearl. I thought I did a step down for these holes, but I didn't. So let me get back here. Try and do that without passing, like poking the thread. It's not letting me. There we go. Okay, that's what I want. So you want to just pass through the 11-0, the crystal, the demi-round, and the dagger. You're coming out of the top hole of that dagger, and you're going to do a demi-round, pass through the top hole of this dagger that we're going to add, and then through the demi-round. You're going to, so basically that's going to come around your pearl. So go through the hole of the demi-round, or sorry, the dagger, demi-round, crystal, and 11-0, like that. That's what you want, like that. And I think I did that because I liked the way it sat higher up, so this angle was nice. If we'd have gone down to the lower hole, this piece here really sticks out and it looks like these are too small and that one's too long. This way it looks like they're just nestled lovely together. That's how we like it. That's how we roll. And just leave some space so it's dangling nicely. We're going to pass through that again. I want to make sure that that's secure. So let me, sorry about that. The light's in the way. I'm gonna try and come out that hole, but passing through the felt. Yeah, perfect. That's what I wanted. Like that. Go through that same 11-0 on the edge. It's like that. There. Pass through the 11-0, the crystal, the demi-round, and the first dagger. Go down to the first demi-round on this dagger. So now you can see why I use demi-rounds. If you don't have demi-rounds, definitely you might try a 15-0. They seem to be interchangeable in my opinion. For stuff that, you know, you're not going to notice that much, it's definitely doable. And then go back through the next dagger, demi-round, crystal, and 11-0. I am so sorry about this camera. I guess every time I unpause the camera, it went to autofocus, and I wish I could fix that, but it's just the type of camera it is. It's how they do set the parameters. I prefer, it's actually pretty good, the autofocus, but when you're doing fine stuff that's really close up, it just has a hard time focusing. Okay, so we're coming out of this 11-0, we're going to pass through this bead that's on the edge that we've been passing through, and we're going to kind of weave the thread through the beadwork because we want to come up to the mid bead here and attach our elephant. So let's see how good we can make this. Just make sure you don't poke through your back, but definitely, you know, it's pretty easy to go through the front of your work and pass through your felt without disrupting your beads. This coming back might be sketch. I think this is how I bent my needle the last time. And oh, you can see, look, it's starting to come through there. I'm almost at the edge. Let me see if I could. See, I might be able to move my needle. Look at that. That's not too bad. We can come back through there. So it didn't even pass the leather. It's just on the edge. Let's just bring it to the front there. And let's figure out where our middle is, and maybe I can aim my needle from that section. So I take the crystal as my middle. And there. So actually this bead here, that one there. Okay, I should be able to aim for that. So let's come through here. Good stuff. And it was the bead that was next to this one. So let's just do. Where's my thread here? Let's come through here and something like that. You don't have to like weave through. You can start at the edge. So let's just bring our thread through here like that. There. We need the 8/0 demi rounds. So these ones are, you can see they're bigger. But I also wanted them kind of flat, more like a spacer bead. So we need our ear wire. We don't need these 11/0s. Let's move these guys out of the way. And our elephant. So pick up a 8/0 demi round, your elephant, 8/0 demi round, and your ear wire. And if you look at the bottom of the ear wire, there's a bar at the middle. So we're going to pass through the first side. And I actually put some seed beads in there. So if we look at the back, I take my, I'm going to pick up, actually these seed beads that are stuck together. I might use that. So there's 2 seed beads. I took 2 seed beads to cross the bar, and that protects the thread from rubbing. So that's a little trick. Let me flip this over, because it doesn't matter at this point. We're going to be fiddling with it. So go back down on the other side of that bar through the demi round. Wow, I passed through that thread. Let me undo that. There we go. So pull everything down like that. We're going to go through the elephant, through the demi round, and through that seed bead, and I'm going to pass through the felt and pull everything snug. If you notice the thread's not, like there's some thread sticking out, hold on to the last bead that you added and pull in the opposite direction. That should pull everything through. But oh, I see what's happened. It's hooked here. So let's unhook that. The thread hooked around the ear wire. Oh, there we go. Like that. So hang on to that and pull it, pull, pull, pull. There. Now I'm gonna go back through the felt and up through that bead, through the demi-round, through the elephant, through the demi-round, and on one side of that, oops, careful not to go through the other bars of that earring wire. Let me pull that back out. Like that. I'm thinking this is where I bent my needle. Pass through these beads. There, like that. At this point, you can pull it a bit snug. Go through the bar of the ear, or the element that's on the ear wire. Then go through the demi-round, through your elephant, through the demi-round, in, like that. Let's see how snug that is. I think we're going to pass through a third time. I like to do 3. That is lovely. So go through that bead and pick up some of that felt. I really like securing it to the felt. And careful you don't do this. Let me pull that out a bit. There we go. Pull that in. Nice and tight. Like I said, we'll go back up one more time. Trying to grab hold of the demi-round, but it's coming out the back, but that's fine. As long as I didn't poke the back, it's just coming up. So I'm going to go through that bead that's attached to the edging. Through the demi-round, through the elephant, through the demi-round on the one side of that. And I want to make sure that's on the correct side. There, yeah. I don't know if you can hear it now. That's the helicopters. It's weird. They don't usually do exercises on Sunday. They do exercises at night. And they just like fly over our houses. I'm like, really? But they have to practice. They do a lot of the training for the sea rescue stuff, so I don't. It actually makes me feel good when I hear them, because I know that if somebody needs their help out on the water, they're going to be there. And we're in a fishing community, so this is the last time through everything. And I'll watch not to hook it onto. So I'll pass through that bead. Now I'm going to go off to the side because I'm going to tie this off. I must have passed through some glue. I can feel the resistance. Let me just pass through here. Sure that didn't hook. Yeah. There we go. And I will just pass through some of the felt. Just hooked again. It's one of those days that, you know, sometimes I do videos and I'm like, I cannot believe it. I'll watch it back to see if there's any mistakes, and everything is just perfect. That would not be today. Just get this thread out of the way here. There we go. So again, I'm just going to pass through. Wow, it is just wanting to hook onto this no matter what I do here. And that should do it. Take my thread off my needle just for safety for my cat, who actually doesn't bother with threads, but I had another cat that did, so I'm always conscious. And there's the earring. Oh, it's turned out lovely. So let me know which one you prefer. This is so hilarious. Do you know what? I mean, I like the first one because it's kind of compact, but I feel like the second one looks very blingy. So let me know what you think. Let's turn these. Ta-da! I hope you enjoyed that. This is a serious video. This 1 hour and 42 minutes. So I have been getting requests for bead embroidery videos and how to attach the faux leather and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that. And then when I saw these elephants, I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. So thanks if you made it all the way through. Let me know if you made it through the whole video. And we will see you in the next video, which will definitely be shorter. And don't forget, the next Curiosity box is called Egyptomania. I cannot imagine how amazing this box is going to be. I'm so excited. Can't wait to see it. So they did add some boxes. So if you don't have a subscription, definitely order your box. It's going to be amazing. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.